Lex, you talked a little bit about sort of what you view as the machine economy. I'm curious when you think about what the machine economy is like today, like what comprises that? How would you describe that for the audience?
I think there's three categories to think about from the crypto point of view. So I used to say this. I don't anymore because it doesn't work. But there are three ways to think about like my fund. The first is if you're talking to crypto people, then it's trying to attach DeFi to AI GDP growth. If you're talking to AI people, then it's attaching money to the AI systems they're building, crypto money. And if you're talking to fintech people, then it's the frontier of fintech, like the next thing that fintech is doing. And they're all describing different parts of the elephant, but it's the same elephant. I think today I have a little bit more visibility into what that means from a crypto perspective. And, everything's the market is so noisy and incredibly large portions of it are market manipulated. So like the information you're seeing is not real. The information being like market prices are legitimately not real. They are fake prices that are being manipulated in a criminal manner. And so on top of that, you have like the massive uncertainty of what technologies win. And you've got also massively different markets, so at the time we're recording, John Ivy's startup was bought for $6 billion by OpenAI, and it produces nothing. Thinking Machines, which is the OpenAI former CTO, raised $1 billion on $10 billion pre-money with no product other than the person. And so you've got this insane, we're going to get to AGI kind of Silicon Valley mindset. And that's one market that everybody's participating in. So if you've got 3 trillion as your destination for how big your company is going to be, 10 billion, 5 billion, 50 billion, who cares? It's all the same. Price insensitive VCs. And then you've got the dynamics of, Silicon Valley raising mega funds, so Andreessen is not really a venture fund. They're an index fund on private companies. And there's lots of stuff to say about how things are broken. And so you've got a market like that. Then you've got the publicly traded AI companies or high-tech companies, which are in the trillions. Then you've got a whole bunch of crypto AI tokens, which are anywhere between 100 million to kind of 5 billion, traded largely on vaporware and stories. And then you've got Asia, and you've got DeepSeek, and a whole bunch of national champions in China building out AI, but with very sort of non-commercial. I mean, it is capitalist, but it's not non-investable for most Western investors. So making sense of any of this and plotting a course through it is really, really difficult. On top of that, you've got to really know like the AI value chain and the crypto value chain, and then all the fintech business models, which is why, sometimes I overthink things that you might be able to tell. Okay, so the answer is here are the 3 buckets of stuff. The first bucket is crypto can do AI, but better because it'll have crypto in it. And so if you know the supply chain in AI, you start with hardware and NVIDIA. On top of NVIDIA, you've got big data scraped from the entire internet, which then floats into the foundational models. Those models are trained through human feedback, which is largely outsourced to the third world or to the global south. And on top of the foundation models, you've got kind of vertical applications that are now being built, one for developers, one for marketers, one for cinematographers, and so on. So those vertical applications are now being acquired by the foundation model providers, so Windsurf for $3 billion to OpenAI. And then on top of that, you have like the different modalities of how you would use AI and then different embodiments, which is kind of like applications and distribution. So the crypto AI version of this is we do it, but we do it better because we put tokens in it. And I think of this as very similar to social fi. It's like, we're going to do Twitter better because this token's in it. So we've got Warpcast, we have decentralized social, we had Fintech, we have this kind of like, I guess, Kaido and like repeating game where we add speculation to a working product and think that somehow makes it better. I think financialization is important, but anyway, and so there are companies that do it at every point of the stack. You've got decentralized training companies like Prime Intellect. You've got decentralized data companies, and then on top of that, you've got networks that provide inference, decentralized inference, the Tensor and many other Morpheus and GaiaNet and others. And then on top of that, you start seeing applications. So Venice sits on top of Morpheus, and then there's lots of things that serve you inference. And then if you want to get to the modalities, that's where the AI agents come in. And of course, you have virtuals and sort of all the speculative kind of meme coin mania around AI agents that sell themselves in crypto. And that's the financialization speculation becomes the main offering. And in many ways, this is a copy paste with finance on top. I think the great experiments, and we've done a number of investments across this area because the market values them. Whether I like it or I don't like it doesn't matter because they are valued by the market and therefore they're funded and they, as a result, can be good investments. But that category to me is very difficult to win in. The second category, and the one that I am most excited about, is Web3 AI or Web2 AI exists and it does things, and it needs financial systems underneath. It needs fintech business models underneath. So it needs to pay, it needs to save, it needs to lend, it needs to assess risk, it needs to deal with fraud, it needs to underwrite. There's three business models in fintech. One is money in motion, two is money at rest, and three is money at risk. And so all of those can sit underneath the AI engines that create economic output. And we've only really seen payments today. I think you could say capital markets underneath agents is a way to spin it, but I don't know. And then the third category is kind of the bundle of everything else. And that's unfair, but it includes things like reconfiguring the user experience from the wallet into a chat app. Lots of people, for example, think that if you could just chat to an AI agent and it would do transactions on your behalf, that would be better if you had a wallet that you're interacting with. I think this is interesting, but still fairly limited because at the end of the day, you're just competing with other neobanks or other exchanges for users. And it's, to me, it's a kind of a niche market. So, but we are seeing a little bit of progress in each of these.
Super helpful. And, one of the things that we tried to definitionally touch on with a couple of our guests who really know AI is how you would define like what an agent is today, right? And how that maybe evolves. I know some folks have like more technical terminology for it, but when you think about an AI agent, how would you sort of describe that today in your view? Like what's sort of the right way to think about that for the audience?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've got an economics background, which means absolutely nothing. I think of it as the principal-agent relationship. So in the principal-agent relationship, you're the principal in the sense that there's like stuff you have and want. I mean, it's really stuff you have, and your desires are in the set of things that you have. You have wants, you've got utility function, you've got assets, and so on. And then you've got an agent. In the old world, an agent would be Goldman Sachs, or Bank of America. So I've got some money, and then I'm going to custody that money in a different location. I give custody of the things I have to somebody who becomes the custodian on my behalf. They're an agent of mine. And so I bring this up in part because like the whole problem with finance and the entire set of regulations that exist to prevent financial firms from doing horrible things comes from this principal-agent relationship. Because all of the problems are about delegating custody to another party. Doesn't mean that it's always better to be the principal and never delegate things. Like, I love delegating things. I do not want to hold my money most of the time. But to have the option to not delegate is great. Anyway, so the agent is Bank of America, and that it holds my money, or, you know, some other bank, Barclays, Wells Fargo, or an agent is Goldman, right? When I give them money to hold on my behalf, and then they're my broker, you know, or Fidelity or Schwab or whatever, Robinhood, they do things on my behalf with my stuff. They are my agent. Now, if I were to hire an assistant who would call restaurants on my behalf and order food, they would custody my desires and probably some of my assets, and then they would implement it on my behalf. That's the same idea. They might misinterpret my desires. And, you know, if I have a nut allergy and they don't know that, then they get the nuts and then they die. Like, custody agent problem. You need some sort of regulation. So the way I think about AI agents is very similar. It's, can I give something of mine that normally I would own, some part of my utility function, to another party that then behaves in some way autonomously, you know, and I think doing my labor for me is that type of thing, you know. So if it gets really tricky between just having a tool versus giving something more substantial, right? Like, if I'm holding a paintbrush and painting versus if I tell Midjourney to do something on my behalf and it generates a painting, versus if I instantiate an agent that is part of a system that knows my preferences, that then on a periodic basis instantiates paintings on my behalf and represents them as if I had made them. Like, you're giving more and more of yourself away. That proximity to you having custody of your own utility function is further and further away. Anyway, that's how I think about it. I'm sure it's technically wrong, but that's my emotional approach to it.